Well, good morning. Thanks for coming. So you want to learn how to deal with your stress, huh? It's obvious. All of us can be very relaxed when there's nothing causing us any tension or any problems. For you, that probably means when there's no school, huh? But a life like that really is unrealistic. We know that life is always giving us stressors, things that cause us stress. Living without that, we know, is impossible. Nobody's immune to stress. So if we know we have to live with stress, we might as well find out what we can do about it. We might as well figure out what stress is and how we can deal with it. So let's start with that word, stress. It's interesting. Originally, the word comes from the field of physics, and the word was used to describe the forces that exist between two bodies touching each other. So it was strictly a word used to describe a physical response. I guess a doctor by the name of Seeley, S-E-L-Y-E, Hans Seeley, from Montreal. It seems that he was the first one to use this term to describe not the physics, but the human being's response to a demand placed on it. The human's reaction to the human's non-specific response to some demand. And the interesting thing is, it was pleasant or not. It didn't have a negative connotation when Dr. Seeley used it. So it's the body's non-specific response to any demand placed upon it. So this response might include things like accelerated breathing, accelerated heart rate, increase in blood pressure, muscle tension. Those were the kinds of things that he talked about. Now, notice that I mentioned stress can be something which is not pleasant, but it can be pleasant as well. A stressor can be negative or positive. And Dr. Seeley named positive stress eustress. He spelled that E-U-S-T-R-E-S-S. So a eustress occurs in some life situation toward which you feel positively. Christmas. I'm not sure we always feel positive toward Christmas, but Christmas or getting married, things which in general you really believe are positive, but nevertheless there's still stress associated with them. So even positive things add a certain amount of stress to our life. So situations which are positive, situations which are negative, you have no trouble describing negative situations, I'm sure. You're taking a test, the death of someone dear to you. But the thing to remember is this: stress in itself is not hazardous. The danger comes from how the individual reacts to that stress. So stress isn't a positive word, it isn't a negative word, it isn't dangerous in itself. The danger is in the individual's response to the stress. And psychologists have found that if we develop appropriate ways to cope with stressful situations, we can reduce the harm, the physiological harm that's caused by stress, or which can be caused by stress. So that's what I want to talk about. What might be some of these appropriate ways to deal with stress so that we can minimize these negative reactions, okay? Now, the first thing that psychologists suggest is learn to recognize your own stress signals, because we all have different types. We have to monitor ourselves for these stress signals so that we can minimize the damage before it gets out of control. What might be some typical early stress signals? Insomnia, weight loss, maybe weight gain, increase in smoking, increase in drinking, increases in those little dumb, I can't believe I did that mistakes, physical tension, tightening of our breath. All of these kinds of things people get, and they may be early signals of stress coming on. So if you can be aware of what early signs of stress you tend to experience, because, as I say, it's different for different people, you can then consider ways to protect yourself when you start seeing this coming on. So you might decide to withdraw from a situation. You might just decide to reward yourself with some low-stress activities. So that's really the first important way to deal with stress appropriately. A second very important way is to pay attention to what your body is asking for. Many psychologists are finding that a good exercise program, good nutrition, both decrease the amount of stress and the effect of stress on the body. This is obvious. Exercise gives you a stress-free environment away from the place where you're experiencing stress. In addition, it keeps your body busy and preoccupied with this non-stressful thing, this exercise. Okay, the third thing psychologists suggest could reduce stress is, when appropriate, to make plans and act on them. I'll get back to that appropriate in a minute. But rather than wasting your energy on worrying about the thing that's causing you stress, just directing your energy to plan some steps and then to act on them can really help reduce the stress, because it reduces the worrying. And also, the results of the plan may in fact be to remove or weaken that original cause of the stress. But remember, I said when appropriate. This next suggestion relates to when appropriate, because if the third suggestion was make plans and act when appropriate, don't sit around and worry, the fourth idea is learn to accept the things that are out of your control that you can't do anything about. When you're stuck in traffic, you can't change that situation. It just increases your stress to waste energy trying to resist what's inevitable. Very quickly then, the last one, pace yourself. Don't jump into things at breakneck speed, and divide large tasks into smaller chunks. You can think of a million examples of things like that. As students trying to get a paper written, if you wait until the last minute and then in a frenzy try to write this paper, there's going to be a great deal of stress associated with it. On the other hand, if you can make plans in advance, do your research on one day, gather the materials, read the materials on another day, plan and pace yourself so that the whole thing doesn't hit you all at once. So these are some suggestions to cope with the inevitable stress that's in all of our lives.